pow.
The rapturous tones of my co-host never gets old.
Thank you.
Well, I don't mean to worry you guys, but we just watched maybe one of the most unhinged movies of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the movie that broke Arnold Schwarzenegger's brain.
But not his body.
Not that body.
Not his bod.
We watched Last Action Hero. You know what that means. I'm Jason Hillman.
I'm Becky Franzel.
And it's time for... Shooby-dooby-dooby-da-boop-boop-boop-bop-a-doop-boop-boop-a-doo-boop-boobity-doo.
Pow.
All right.
Now, before we get into this movie, I kind of want to lay the groundwork for where we are when it exists in the world. Arnold Schwarzenegger is at the top of the goddamn world. He has just made, in this order, The Terminator, Commando, Raw Deal, Predator, The Running Man, Red Heat, Twins, Total Recall, and Kindergarten Cop, and Terminator 2. That's a ridiculous run for literally anybody, let alone a guy who can barely speak the language and is built like a brick shithouse, as my father used.
Brick house.
Yeah, he's a brick man.
You have... How many of Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies have you seen?
Lots.
Lots of them. What... If you could name a favorite, what would it be?
Predator.
Predator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would say Predator.
That's because it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's perhaps maybe... It's the greatest action movie of the 80s.
There's nothing scarier than slime, and there's lots of slime in that movie. So
slime is scary. Nickelodeon proved that. That's why they had to shut down.
And that's why therapy has gone through the roof for 90s kids.
It wasn't the divorces. It wasn't the being abandoned. It was all of that green slime.
That green gook.
It was one of those things where it's like, remember, you can't do that on television. If you said, I don't know, you got slimed, making just a lack of knowledge a traumatic experience. We had Nickelodeon forcing families, proud men and women, to climb around in slimy, porridge-filled pools just to get a flag so that their children would love them again.
Well, and not even like normal slime. It's like a radioactive slime that I'd imagine stains their clothes, stains their lives, stains their souls.
These are people who went to school, got degrees, bought homes, cars, got the American dream, and it went so poorly for them they had to embarrass themselves, mortify themselves, humiliate themselves in front of their children so that they could maybe get a vacation, because they certainly weren't getting them at work.
I'd imagine that a man's like Harvard graduate degree flashes before his eyes right before he's about to get slimed.
I guess my favorite part too was that there was an audience just cheering on these people debasing themselves as a family unit.
Because we're not past gladiators. We're not past, the Coliseum.
What came first, Double Dare or the American Gladiators? Because we brought the American Gladiators back, where we let regular people... That's a good question that I could look up if I wanted to, and I don't at the moment because we've got more important things to talk about.
That's not the focus.
John McTiernan makes Predator, then he makes arguably the next great action movie, writes a different set of rules, brings Bruce Willis in, and makes Die Hard one of the greatest action movies ever made. It's a complete subversion of the rules that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone had laid out. Just a schlubby, alcoholic garbage man trying to fix his marriage ends up having to talk smack to Alan Rickman for 2.5 hours. Then he makes Hunt for Red October. Then he makes Medicine Man. And then him and Schwarzenegger team up for this, which is supposed to be a way in which it was supposed to be a satire of the genre that they made the rules for. Last Action Hero. And I don't know if it's good, but it's a swing. What'd you think?
It's definitely a confident title for the movie that it was, right? Like, when it said Last Action Hero, I assumed it was going to be like, oh, we're never going to have action hero movies ever again. After this, it's going to destroy the action hero movie.
There was definitely that vibe to it in a way, like, remember Dewey Cox?
Mm-hmm.
The Dewey Cox story, Walk Hard? The point of that was that biopics at that point had become so redundant, their cliches so overwhelming, that they needed to be parodied.
Right.
And it threw a gauntlet down on the ground and it said, hey, if you're going to make these things, I challenge you to do something different than following these tropes. And honestly, there weren't that many biopics that came after it, and the ones that did come out didn't answer that challenge. I think of Bohemian Rhapsody. I think of that Aretha Franklin movie.
Rocket Man.
The only
did well.
one that answered that challenge was Rocket Man. But it was hard for things to exist after that, and I think Last Action Hero was trying to be that for action movies, but it didn't do well.
Mm-hmm.
And so Arnold Schwarzenegger ended up having to go back to do those cliche action movies, and cliche action movies kept happening afterwards because I don't think people were ready to be told that their thing is actually kind of stupid and their tastes, because it kind of makes the argument that your tastes are bad.
Mm-hmm.
That if you enjoy these explosions and stupid quips,
then you're an explosion and a stupid quip.
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger was disappointed? Do you think they met up together and he's like, I'm fucking done with these action hero movies. Let's do one where I never have to do an action hero movie ever again. Let's destroy my reputation, right?
Oh, I definitely think that after making something like Twins, where he was a comedy with Danny DeVito, and making Kindergarten Cop.
Arguably two of his best action movies, I would argue.
Twins and Kindergarten Cop? Well, Kindergarten Cop was kind of a prelude to that because it was an action movie where he was like an undercover cop
right.
who was pretending to be a kindergarten teacher.
Right.
But it wasn't a parody of it. It just... The thing about Arnold Schwarzenegger feels like everything he's in is parody. There's no reason for this man to exist. There's no reason for a person like that to be in the real world. Of course.
Right. His polo shirts are way too tight.
Everything is way too tight. So I think that he was definitely at a point in his career where he was trying to...
Become governor.
Not yet, though. Mm-hmm. I feel like being governor was something that he married into a political family. But I feel like he could feel his movie career fizzling out. Because... where do you go from a movie that literally makes fun of everything you've built up about yourself?
Well, right. And also, can you imagine if you were in a movie that makes fun of everything that you've worked towards, right? Mm-hmm. And then it flops?
Flops hard. It gets called stupid and soulless.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't think that's a fair thing to say. I don't think it's soulless. It's definitely reaching. It's reaching for something, right?
Well, I can't tell if... because it doesn't commit to everything that it's trying to do as much as I would like to, because the implication in it, the premise is so fascinating. Mm-hmm. Let's get into the story, kind of. The story is there's a kid, he's obsessed with this character, Jack Slater, this action movie star played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He gets a chance to go see the new movie. The projectionist gives him a magic ticket that Houdini had, and then he ends up in the movie. And then tries to convince Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jack Slater that he's in a movie. Mm-hmm. And everything is a hyper-real parody of action movies. Clips never run out. Wounds are never real. Everyone flies when they get hit. There's the police captain yelling. Everyone's attractive.
Arrivals are 100% on point right when you need them.
What's that?
Arrivals, like when his daughter came in and it was like right in the nick of time.
Yeah, everything is scripted very conveniently. Mm-hmm. And so what it does is it goes down this checklist of all the action movie cliches as this kid is like trying to convince him that he's actually not a real person, but the kid's also reveling in it. And if this sounds somewhat confusing, that's how the movie plays out as well. I can't tell if it's a bad action movie but a good satire, or a good action movie and a bad satire, because it never really lands on what kind of movie it's trying to be. And everyone, Charles Dance is in it, F. Murray Abraham is in it. There's a really stacked cast of people doing their best with the material they have, but it's not cohesive. Because it's trying to be ultra violent on one end and then ultra sweet on the other end. Mm-hmm. It's trying to be all Schwarzenegger for everyone.
Well, and also it seems like the writer was really, really excited about a few things, but then immediately got excited about another thing and didn't fulfill the thing that he got excited about in the first place. Like, I honestly think it was excited writing, which is fun to watch, right? Like, it was clear that he liked what he was writing. He was having a lot of fun with it.
Well, the missing piece of this is the fact that at least part of the script was written. It seems like the first part of the script was written by Shane Black. Shane Black is also a guy who wrote the rules of action movies. He is the original writer of Lethal Weapon. He wrote The Monster Squad. He wrote The Last Boy Scout. He wrote The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh, shit.
Recently,
Okay.
he wrote, most recently, we're not going to talk about his Predator movie because that got destroyed and he made a lot of bad choices and it's terrible. But Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, also one of the greatest movies ever made. He's very good at following those rules, but also being somewhat subversive about them. And so he wrote those rules. So he wrote a script in which he's making fun of those rules. But then it looks like someone else came in and was like, but need to add some pizzazz. Really need to. He actually wrote an action movie. And then they tried to combine that with Shane Black's satire of an action movie. And it just comes off as confused.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't answer a lot of the central questions that I feel like if one person was writing it, they would answer because they'd be like, oh, well, I brought this up, so I should probably, fulfill this. Right?
It's definitely, it's a studio interference movie for sure. It's
Yeah.
a studio coming in, but like, we need more Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Right, but the point is we're actually trying to make fun of this genre that Schwarzenegger. Yes, but we need more him doing his thing.
Right.
And so we have long stretches where it's Schwarzenegger doing Schwarzenegger, even though we just spent 30 minutes watching him make fun of that entire character.
Well, right, and it's all like circumvented when it gets to the real world and you actually meet Arnold Schwarzenegger.
During the funeral scene, there's a funeral scene that's like the center of the movie. The end of Act 2, which is there's this funeral for a gangster and they have to stop this gas bomb from going off.
What's his name? Art the Fart? Like
Leon the Fart or
Leon
something.
the Fart. Yeah, you're right.
And who knows if I am.
I'm pretty sure. Maybe.
Jan de Fart. It doesn't matter. It's becoming kind of insufferable by then. And that's when Charles Dance's character, the right-hand man of the gangster, finds the ticket and comes back into the real world. And then it really picks up steam again, and it really feels like a Shane Black comedy, action, thriller kind of thing, because the bad guy the interesting premises start coming in.
Right. Like, I mean, especially the scene where he shoots somebody and he's just shouting, I've just killed a man. And everyone's like, shut up.
That's an interesting premise.
Right.
The idea that in the real world, in his world, everyone knows that he's a gangster. Everyone knows that he's a drug dealer. When he shoots somebody, people scream and their commotion is caused.
And then cops show up 3 minutes later, which he showed by, like, looking at his watch and being like, huh.
Yeah. There's no actual next scene for him. It's just you can get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
He watches violence and loves it. And then Jack Slater has to deal with the fact that he can't just shoot a car and make it explode.
Right.
That's interesting. Going to a premiere near the end, there's a premiere of the movie that the kid snuck in to see that he got stuck in, that Arnold Schwarzenegger is at. And they portray him as just an obnoxious, self-important douchebag who's always trying to promote his wares. His wife is talking smack to him.
Well, and it's interesting because the bad guys hold so much more power in the real world versus, like, you can understand where they're going, and it's kind of a cliche premise, but it is interesting to see them play out with it and to play with it.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually just a blowhard and the bad guys get away with everything.
Right.
That's a really fascinating premise that they don't really do a whole lot with. I think my favorite is Tom Noonan is the Ripper.
Yeah.
The guy from the end of the last movie, the bad guy in the last movie. And he shows up and they're like, wow, great makeup. And then Tom Noonan actually shows up. There's a spark there that they seem to want to snuff out at every turn.
Right, because there was no, like, question like, oh my god, you changed out of costume.
Right. They kind of have that conversation, but then they cut to the next scene. It feels like there's scenes missing. It feels like there's a deeper, more interesting movie there.
Right. And that's what I was saying. It feels like it was written by a really excited writer who really wanted to, like, follow through on some of these things. Because they brought up so many points. And there were so many fires lit. But they were, like you were saying, they're just...
That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, a lot of fires are lit and a lot of snuffing them out before they can actually turn into a conflagration, like it actually burn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was written by Shane Black, and then it was rewritten by somebody ripping off Shane Black but misunderstanding what his movies are about. Because his movies are always very serious, but then they're also tongue-in-cheek.
Well, there's a sense of humor to it.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I definitely think that it ages better. At the time, I don't think people were ready for it. It feels like people just misunderstood what it was about. I think they went in, the way the advertising worked back then is they made it seem like it was the action movie of '93, but that's not what it was. And so people went looking for action and got made fun of. Or
Right.
people went for subversion and then got action. And it just left people confused. The reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger is a successful man is because he is ahead of the curve. He saw his career peaking and he was like, I should call myself out on this stuff. I'm interested in making something like this with the guy who arguably makes the best action movies.
Right.
And it's directed like a John McTiernan movie. It is really well directed. There's a lot of great cinematography, the action scenes are actually interesting.
And it's fun to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger have fun. Like when he's talking with the chief in the movie world.
Right.
And he's like circumventing that. He's like, you don't have to yell. I will always win. Bop, 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 bop. And then he winks at the camera.
Right. There's a lot of really fun stuff like that. He was ready to move into a different category of his career. It feels like he wanted to be regarded as, quote unquote, the last action hero and then move on with his life.
Right.
His choices afterwards, he does varyingly lower quality versions of everything he's already done. True Lies, James Cameron movie, probably maybe his last great movie. But then he does Eraser, which is as cliche as it gets. He does Junior, which has a wild premise and is a bad comedy.
I'll never be able to hear the title Junior without thinking about your set.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a plug for me. Then he does Jingle All the Way, which is an okay comedy. He does Batman and Robin, which he got paid too much to be pretty
Really?
bad. Although I will defend that movie now. But he does The Sixth Day, which is an even worse, more cliche action movie. Collateral Damage, an even worse, more cliche action movie. Terminator 3, The Expendables, so on and so forth. The thing that he's making fun of in The Last Action Hero, he ends up becoming. That kid calls him out on the, I'll be back, trying to force that into everything. You're always
Right.
trying to do that. That's what he becomes. He becomes literally the thing he was making fun of because he wasn't allowed to let that go because the public would not let him. He was a victim of his own success and he tried to address it and nobody cared. Nobody cared.
Because it was 1993.
And John McTiernan didn't really recover well either.
That's really sad.
Well, okay, so after Last Action Hero, he goes back to action movie cliches with Die Hard with a Vengeance. He goes back to The Well, which is a good movie, but it is headed in the wrong direction, which also Die Hard with a Vengeance comes off as a parody of action movies too. Then he does The Thomas Crown Affair, which is okay. Then he does The 13th Warrior, which he left halfway through because he couldn't get along with the guy who wrote it.
I love those stories where they're like, oh, well, we just couldn't get along, so somebody else just finished it. And the movie ends up being like absolutely unhinged. And Hollywood's like, it's fine.
It's fine. We make things like this all the time. It's great. And so he really never recovers from that. I said it at the top of this. It broke their brains because they knew they had invented a formula and then they were calling themselves out on this formula and they wanted to move in different directions and we wouldn't let them.
And they had the king of action stars too.
Right.
Like it was a perfect formula.
And we weren't ready for that yet, so we forced them to run their formula into the ground, at which point we then complained, another Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. We rejected their gift. And so the genre went hardcore until it became a parody of itself.
Right.
And then we were supposed to accept it. Anyways, Last Action Hero. So it's a wealth of intellectual riches that doesn't live up to its own premise. But I would also argue that a lot of the reason why the movie doesn't work is that kid who plays the main character is bad.
It's a bummer too. And like you can see that he was given direction in that, like, especially in the scene where he brings Arnold Schwarzenegger to his mom and he's using his hands like excessively. So you can tell that he's being given direction to be more animated, right? But then it comes off like a Kellogg's commercial. Like, it's weird.
Why it's also interesting is because it's his first movie, and his first movie is with Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie directed by John McTiernan.
Right.
In the biggest action movie of the summer.
Right.
The previous year, Edward Furlong had been plucked completely from obscurity to star in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, his very first movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he is a revelation. He is great in it. That's why this movie, it's so interesting because it was the same circumstances.
Do you think, this is something that just hit my brain, do you think he was like purposefully bad because it's a parody of Do you think that's going too far on the parody thing?
Well, I think even wondering that is kind of the problem. The reason why you don't have an answer to that is because the movie doesn't answer that question for you.
Right.
Because is he an earnest, naive child doing his best in the circumstances, or is he acting earnest and naive?
But then all the characters call him stupid. They're like, "You're a fucking idiot," essentially. Like,
Well, he is because he's a child.
At every turn, like an excessive amount, people are like, "Are you really that stupid?"
And I think that we can attest to the fact that if we're called stupid enough times, we're gonna be. Like, that's how children work.
Right.
And so, no, I think that he did the best he could. It feels like it was a chaotic production, and he probably received multiple different instructions because the script seems as confused.
Right.
So his performance from scene to scene would be good to okay to very, very bad.
Right.
And bad in all the wrong ways in all the wrong scenes.
Well, I mean, but yeah, because he's a kid.
They put a gun in that kid's hand. That was weird.
Yeah, it was.
But it's supposed to be, it also is supposed to be this heartwarming tale about a kid coming into his own and finding a new friend. But it's also super dark.
Yeah, like the part where he gets at the beginning where somebody robs his house and he ends up at the police department, right? And the person's like, "Well, you don't even have anything. There's nothing of worth in this house, you piece of shit. Handcuff yourself to the toilet and I'm going to throw the key down the toilet," right? That's dark as hell.
And he uses that key, sure, that's kind of like planting, it's like Chekhov's key.
Right.
But it comes back like 45 minutes later during a comedic scene.
Right.
When F. Murray Abraham's crooked cop is called out by Jack. And then magically he's got a key. But it didn't really matter because the bad guy had caught up with him. There's so many inconsistencies, even though there's so much genius stuff happening. The thing where he gets robbed. Mm-hmm. He has to go to the cops. They don't care.
Right.
That's an interesting commentary.
Which
the fact
falls into later where everyone's like, "Oh, I can just shoot somebody and nobody cares."
Right.
Right? And that feels like that there could have been like a tie there. But there kind of was, but not really.
It was trying to say so much.
Yeah.
Like even like the theater that the old man runs is run down. There's a sign that said it's getting shut down to introduce a new megaplex, 10 huge screens. That's interesting.
Right.
I want to know more about that. Every time there's this chance for something interesting, like an interesting premise, it kind of blows it. The old man is so obsessed with the magic of this ticket, but it makes it sound like he's just joshing with this naive kid.
Well, and also he's never used it. So he's obsessed with it. He's held it with him, but he's never even thought to use it.
And he gives this monologue about how he was too afraid to do it. And then all of a sudden, just because this kid's watching a Jack Slater movie, his magic love of the movies makes it happen. And I had assumed that when the kid came back that he was not going to believe him and that he would introduce Jack Slater and it'd be interesting like that. But it's not. He becomes this like greedy, covetous old man. It was like, "Well, give it to me. I want to have fun now. I could have had fun." Blah.
Right. And then for some reason, Houdini gave it to him. Why would Houdini give it to him?
Which begs the question, are there a billion of those tickets floating around? Are there a bunch of people in movies? The thing with his daughter was interesting. The fact that she is also an action star.
Right.
The fact that she also can kick ass. That is handled weirdly. If he's Arnold Schwarzenegger in the fake world, why wasn't her name was Bridget Wilson? Why wasn't her name used?
She was given the name Meredith.
Right. So what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
Your rules are completely inconsistent. And because they're inconsistent, I can't get into the movie as much as I want to because I'm fascinated by it.
Well, like as we were watching the movie, we just kept going back and forth with questions of like, "Oh, I wonder where they're going to go with this," right? And then it'd just be like dead end. And then it'd be...
That's a great way of putting it. They were dead ends. We would be going down this path, and then we would just hit a wall.
Right.
And it would introduce a completely new concept.
Right.
And everyone was doing their goddamn best.
Yeah. And I fell asleep for like 5 minutes maybe, and I feel like I didn't miss anything. Because it was at a point where it was just a dead end. And then I woke up, and I was like, "Oh, some things have happened, but I didn't miss any important plot points."
It is very rare that I watch a movie that's so front-loaded because it starts off with a bang. It starts off really interesting, really heavy. The action sequences are great. The quips are great. The banter between the kid and Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually pretty interesting. And then, to your point, it just hits a wall. And then it just becomes a really bad action movie. And the satire elements aren't really there. And again, when we get back into the real world, there they are again. But then we introduce another character, and then Arnold gets to go home and everything's fine and normal and fun, and he just waves off and it's a happy-go-lucky sunset ending. But we have gained nothing. We have learned nothing.
Right.
But I don't know if there was any way for this movie to win, honestly, in that environment. What you were saying earlier, like if you worshiped your God King Action Man and you went to this movie, I don't think there's a way for it to be consistent.
No.
And please everyone at once.
No.
If it was as good as its premise, it would have been hailed as a satirical masterpiece. But what would that have meant to the careers of Arnold Schwarzenegger and John McTiernan?
Right. Well, and I also think it's hard. If you make a satire that pleases everybody, then you're doing something wrong. It's kind of like if you're doing a protest that's government sanctioned, then what are you protesting?
Yes, exactly. Like you can't make fun of something with permission.
Right.
From the audience that you're kind of calling out.
Right.
So I don't know if there was any hope for it. There's a director's cut out there somewhere where there's like extra footage and it becomes like a more cohesive film. But I think everyone likes to talk that shit about director's cuts. So I'd love to see the Snyder cut of The Last Action Hero.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, I do think there is something there. And there are a lot of really interesting premises raised. And you can kind of tell that they were just cut out. Right?
To be a stupid cliche action movie. To become the thing it was mocking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so sad, actually. It comes off as somewhat... Like, I was sad in the middle of it because I was like, I'm into this. I'm into what you're doing. You've created a fun world, a fun cartoon world. There's a cartoon cat. Everything's run by Acme. Your visual gags are interesting.
Everyone's wearing latex.
Everyone's hot.
Mm-hmm.
And then that just stops.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes this really bad, poorly structured, poorly shot, poorly choreographed action movie.
Right.
And I was like annoyed. And then we get back to the real world and it becomes interesting again.
It feels
There's
like
a place where Shane Black's script stops.
Mm-hmm.
It's filled in with this other guy, and then Shane Black's script starts up again. It's delineated so clearly.
Well, it feels like a new novelist where you start reading it and you can tell they're really inspired and then they get burned out by the middle, right?
Yeah. Does it hold up? I remember enjoying it when I was young and not as much as I wanted to for these kind of the same reasons we've been talking about. But I think after like 30 years of kind of action garbage and an evolution of the form, I think it is an interesting time capsule. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but I'm glad that I did watch it and I'm glad that it exists.
There was nothing in there where I was like, oh, well, that didn't age well. Like, I could see that being shot today with like minor adjustments to the script for time.
Are action movies in a place where they can be mocked? Because they were in a place to be mocked then. We had Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson's concept movies that they were making, just like these straight, over-the-top action movies. Michael Bay hadn't emerged from his ad agency swamp yet.
His little cocoon.
So it's interesting that a satire of that style, of a previous style of action movies, would fail, and then from those ashes would rise Michael Bay, who makes some of the most sadistic, over-the-top, but well-shot, well-choreographed action movies of the last couple of decades. I can't believe we made it through this entire conversation without talking about Michael Bay.
Like
Bay. Bad Boys 2 feels like a satire of an action movie.
Oh, absolutely.
It is incredibly violent, sadistic. It's like almost a horror movie that has comedy in it.
Where they're just like elbowing each other the entire time, like ho ho ho.
While they're like running over dead bodies,
right.
They're destroying favelas, they're blowing up this huge house in Cuba for no reason when they could have just arrested the guy.
Right.
Is it possible to make fun of action movies? And if someone's listening to this and they know of an action movie that's like Last Action Hero of any recent times, I would love to see it. John Wick 4 felt like almost a parody of action movies at this point because it's become like a comic book.
Well, especially the falling down the stairs thing. That was really dark and kind of funny.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was a metaphor for the entire affair.
Right.
Because we keep going and we keep sitting through these things and then we keep going back. So, Last Action Hero. Final thoughts?
I mean, it was fun in that, like, it'd almost be a fun writing prompt. Because I left. I was like, oh, I wonder about this and I wonder about that, and that's a really fun premise. But it wasn't executed in the movie. So, like, it's a good thought experiment, but not really a full execution.
That's actually, I love that you put that, because you have a writing group and you guys basically just take writing prompts out of a hat, right? And just write whatever that is. The early 90s, the 80s was a perfect time for cocaine and premises. Mm-hmm. You could get $100 million to make a movie on premise alone. I brought up Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson. Lady welder likes to dance. Flashdance. Man drive car fast, has problems with competitor. Days of Thunder. Man drive plane fast, has problem with competitor. Top Gun. Oh, man. Miss those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. You actually have to like prove yourself to somebody or something.
Oh, now it has to be a good script.
Well, here's the thing now is like a movie like that now would be thrown on streaming.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be in theaters.
Right.
You know what was a parody of action movies but was also pretty beautiful and was also serious but also funny? Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was all the kung fu martial arts movies you've ever seen with comedy.
With effective comedy that delivered on the jokes.
Actually, that's maybe the closest thing we've had, but it's not directly parodying the movies.
It's its own thing.
It's referencing things, and it moves from dimension to dimension referencing things, but it's not a satire. Yeah.
It makes its own rules.
And it follows them.
Right.
Which is important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually the lesson we're learning here. If you're going to make rules, follow them.
Mm-hmm.
Of any movie, any script, anything you're writing, you can't just get away with a good premise. It's not 93.
Don't snuff those fires, babies.
So anyways, Last Action Hero,
Mm-hmm.
There are better parodies out there that follow its rules, like another movie of that era, Hot Shots, which we're going to talk about next. Did you
Yes. I love Hot Shots. I love Hot Shots. I love Hot Shots. So I'm excited for that episode.
Okay. All right. I am excited to talk about it. And especially the second one, which is
bad.
Mm-hmm. Right. Even though that's the one that's in the zeitgeist more visually.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to plug anything? Got anything to plug?
At the moment, no. I have nothing.
Excellent. It's awesome being an artist in the modern age. I also have things and yet nothing all at once.
Mm-hmm. Everything, everywhere, not at once.
Nothing.
Not at once.
Nothing, nowhere, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
All at once. I'm Jason Hillman.
I'm Becky Franzel.
You have been tuned into the Deadeye Millennial Film Club. I'm sorry, there's going to be more.
Please.
Bye.